theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Wrong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Hello, Suzy Wrong.
Hello, Warren. This week's movie is set in the 90s, but just last week, a friend told me while on a trip to America recently, he got into some naughty hanky-panky in a gym changing room.
What? Really?
And I thought
Were you shocked?
it was... And I thought a little bit. I thought cottaging was a thing of the past because of all the apps and everything of, everything that's available on your phone.
Oh.
It didn't occur to me that men are still men, and when they can, they will enjoy themselves.
I feel like we're talking in code. I always wondered what the term cottaging means. I didn't know that that's what it referred to as, doing beats.
Yeah, I think cottaging, I did check before speaking with you that it involves the public toilets.
Oh, so it's not a cottage cheese fetish or anything like that.
No, it's nothing to do with mammalian secretions.
Suzy Wrong, the R-rated radio. The gym I go to, one of the commercial gyms, and I ride my bike there, so I don't really use the change rooms so much. But I've heard stories that things go on. I know everyone's thinking of a particular gym at the moment, but yeah, I don't know. And the other thing is, Suzy, it's funny, isn't it? Because we think of the apps, but the apps are dangerous, aren't they? You hear all these stories now about things going on, particularly on Grindr. And I just thought then, we talk about cottaging or, outdoors or gymnasiums or these sorts of things. And I suppose there was in danger associated with those in terms of, particularly in the past, police entrapment, which is what we'll be talking about with today's movie. But in some ways it's almost like the reverse has happened now, hasn't it? Because we hear all these horror stories about what can go on apps like Grindr and Scruff. Yet maybe the change room's the safer option now. I don't know.
It surprises me that people are risky in that way. Back in the day when we said risky, we were talking about people not using protection when having sex. But now because of the anonymity through these apps, I don't know. It feels like that these apps allow you to be quite anonymous, and it seems that there's a lot of catfishing happening, and through that, people get themselves in quite dangerous situations.
I have a bit of a hardline view on cruising outdoors, and that is, it's easy for people to judge it and to think it's bad and what have you, or for police, I don't know if they probably don't do it now, but, they used to entrap people there. I have a view, and I think if you suppress homosexuality or anything that's not heterosexual, if you suppress it, it's going to get pushed somewhere else. So don't do that to us and then try and crack down about where it's happening, because you put it there in the first place by creating this environment. So that's my hardline view on that. So suck it up, everyone. You know what I mean? If you're not comfortable that something's going on at your local gym, then maybe you should have been more open about it in the past. There you go. How's that? You watch the texts start coming in. But that's my view. I mean, really? Did you ever want to be sort of hidden and underground, Suzy? I certainly didn't, but felt forced to because it was safe.
Nobody wants to be hidden. Yeah. Let's get to the story, and we'll chat a little bit more after this review.
Okay, sounds good. What are we talking about? The movie.
The year was 1997, and gay men were hooking up anonymously in places like public toilets. In the movie Plainclothes, currently screening at cinemas, policeman Lucas is tasked with seducing men at the shopping mall and having them expose themselves in the restroom before arresting and charging them with indecency. This proves a challenge for Lucas, who is himself secretly gay, and when he encounters Andrew on one of his entrapment operations, feelings get in the way and Lucas is unable able to go through with the ambush. Plainclothes is a curiously nostalgic work, written and directed by filmmaker Carmen Emmy, who is only in his 30s. Its visual style reveals a sentimental attachment to the 90s, even if the narrative is highly conscious of the torment that gay men suffered at that time. Plainclothes is all about the closet and all the persecution around gayness that forced people into the closet. There is no joy to speak of. Even the sex that the characters do have is tinged with shame and guilt. I understand that there is value in memorializing queer history, but I do feel that movies of this nature have already been made many times before. Most of the seminal gay films of the 90s and early 2000s were in the same vein. Plainclothes does not seem to offer anything new, and because I feel like I've seen it all before, the film did leave me cold. I wanted to offer a new perspective if it chooses to deal with something historical, and I just wasn't able to find anything fresh in this story about closet cases in the 90s. On the bright side, the quality of acting is strong. Leading men Tom Blythe and Russell Tovey are both convincing in their parts. Both are attractive and therefore able to prevent us from feeling too alienated by their archaic behavior in this very stale tale. Warren, what did you think?
Look, at first I found it, I was a bit frustrated by the quality of the film. I don't know, but then I realised, well, maybe it's meant to be reflecting the 90s, but it seemed a bit odd to me. I liked it. I liked the fact that it was very open with what was going on. In fact, it was set in a shopping centre, and obviously there was a code. You know, you look down at someone sitting at the table, they look up, and I thought, oh, that's how it works. I wish I'd have known that many years ago. But that's how it works. But I got, you're right, films have done this before, but it still triggers a bit of anger there because, you know, surveillance of queer spaces. It's probably those of us who have been around a little bit longer, you know, it's all too familiar. Queer venues being monitored, infiltrated, controlled. You know, the idea that spaces that are meant to be safe have been observed, and how, you know, that tension changes how people behave and connect with each other. And then, you know, when we're forced to go underground, it makes me even more angry. So it kind of sparked a bit of a raw nerve for me. It's sort of like, leave us alone. You know, obviously these guys are trying to meet other men in secretive places, so they're not going to upset anyone. You don't need to go and allocate police resources to it like they did back in the 90s in this movie. You don't need to. What a waste of money. There's bigger things to investigate than someone just trying to have a bit of fun with someone else. I get really angry at it, to be honest with you. I think, you know, it's something that it's almost like the, you know, the genetics of our community. It's happened. We all know what happened at Tasty and how damaging that raid was. It's there, and I'm glad a film acknowledged it. You're right. It probably isn't the first to do it, but it's still quite raw for some people, and, you know, who are forced to hide themselves, Suzy.
I did like seeing that there was a level of glee in the cops, you know, going on these operations. It's weird. It's like, well, what's in it for you? Aren't there bigger fish to fry?
What's your problem? Yeah.
Obviously these people are not hurting anyone. Yet they're so excited about catching men in action in public toilets. And it's just like these days when, you know, right-wing people talk about trans people with such passion. And they are always the ones who bring it up. And you're wondering, what is this obsession? It's very weird. It's a very weird thing that queer people have to deal with. And, you know, the easy explanation is that, you know, the people who are obsessed with criticizing us and, you know, or persecuting us are themselves probably queer and in the closet. That's an easy explanation. But I wonder if there's something else, or is it just that simple that they have their own secrets that are too hard to hide, and therefore they lash out in these ways?
Suzy, I saw I get lots of press releases here. And I saw one, I can't remember what it was about because something else sort of stole my attention from it. And it was something out of the blue. And then it was from Family First, which is that political organisation, and somehow they attacked Equality Australia, saying groups like Equality Australia, blah, 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 And I thought, that's a group that's just arguing for equality and they're being blamed on something already. It's almost like it's such an easy thing to do, and it seems so threatening to all these people. Like, I don't know, I've never understood what is so threatening about two people just falling in love, having a bit of fun, maybe it's just sex, whatever. What is so threatening about it that they needed to allocate resources to entrap people? That's the worst thing about it. There were 2 cops in this film. How much would that have cost? I don't know. A lot.
Yeah, sometimes there were 3, sometimes, and then we saw a scene with 4 cops just talking about catching men in public toilets. It's very absurd.
But that happened.
And you can see that, that happened in many, many places. And I know, from what I remember, I did remember seeing some reports coming out of Malaysia that is still happening in current times. And you wonder, where do they get off? What is it about all this stuff that gets people so excited? It's unfortunate that it happens, but it seems like there's a part in human nature. There's this fear. I guess that's why it's called homophobia and transphobia.
Suzy, we're so scary.
There's this crazy, absurd fear that exists, and I guess I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it. I do know, though. It reminds me of the 90s when I was quite strident in my belief that people needed to come out. I was obviously a bit naive then, and obviously I was in a more, I came from quite a privileged background in the 90s, so I didn't understand that, coming out wasn't easy for everyone. But I did feel like if people came out and if people knew us, the reason why I feel like trans people are under attack now, much more than gay people are, it's because people generally know gay people now. People would have friends who are gay because gay people have come out over the last decades. And maybe there aren't enough trans people around for just, most people to have a trans friend, and therefore to turn us into monsters is the easy thing to do at the moment.
Yeah, I think, and the other thing is too, don't forget, if trans are the easy target, it won't stop at trans people. It's just the easy ones always picked on first. So it's in everyone's interest to help defend your friends, because otherwise it won't stop.
It should be in everyone's interest, but unfortunately the way politics is structured, there are people who will benefit from inciting fear and getting people paranoid about sexuality and gender.
Suzy,
and that's what we're seeing now.
What do your men say when they come across you in the dark? Do they scream?
I haven't had anyone scream for a long time. Not for that reason, anyway. And you know what? I had this discussion with a friend the other day about the difference between Australia and places like the US and Europe, where things are getting really scary, have gotten very scary. I think Australians are by and large very good at leaving people alone. I think we don't talk about freedom a lot. The Americans use the word freedom all the time, yet they are really big into controlling other people. In Australia, we kind of don't think of ourselves that way. We don't use the words liberty and freedom a lot. But I think it is very much in our DNA that we are quite comfortable that we leave people alone as long as they don't affect us too much. And I hope that holds. There is talk about, one nation gaining popularity currently. But, we've been there before. We've had one nation come up and then disappear, come up and disappear many times. And I hope that what I think to be very Australian qualities is that we are very good at letting people be. I hope that is as real as I imagine it, I believe it to be.
Ex-politician Christopher Pyne always said something that rings true in Australian politics, and that is that elections here are won from the centre, not from the extreme right or left. So that I found that quite comforting to know. So I always think about that when I get a little bit concerned about what's been happening. Suzy, just to pivot a little bit, there's something about secrecy that turns the volume up on everything. So if we think of someone, in this movie going into a public shopping centre and going into the restroom or what have you, and that attraction or connection in a restricted or risky environment can heighten emotion and intensity of something that isn't fully allowed. What do you think of that? Do you reckon that's true? That naughtiness.
Of course that's true. In the 80s in Singapore, when they banned chewing gum.
Oh, that's right.
that was when everyone went out looking for chewing gum. Like no one gave two hoots about chewing gum until that day when it came out in the papers that you have a week. I think it was something like a week or a month to grab all the chewing gum you can have, because that's going to be the last of it.
Why did that happen? What was the reason behind banning chewing gum? Did someone step on it?
Because they started the trains. We didn't have trains for the longest time. And in the mid-80s, I believe, that the trains were ready to be open. And everyone was excited about Singapore having trains. And to protect the trains from being damaged, they said no more chewing gum.
Oh, that was the reason. It was for trains. And what was the public reaction at the time? Like, what did everyone go, oh my God?
Only very slightly. Singaporeans are a very obedient lot. We are very good at obeying the government, and we listen to them, and they always have a way of making sense, and then we just go with it.
Did you continue? Did you blow bubbles? What about bubble gum? Or was it?
Yeah. So you would get all the bubble gum. You could get all the bubble gum that you can find during the grace period, because it became illegal to sell. It wasn't illegal to consume.
Were people bringing it
illegal
in?
To sell.
Like from overseas? Would you go to Malaysia and bring it in?
Yeah. I think people did that for a while because of the prohibition. It made it desirable, but that ran its course.
That's it. Prohibition equals desire. There you go.
Yeah.
Suzy Wrong. This week we're talking about the movie called, what was it called?
Plainclothes.
Plainclothes, that's right. Next week, what are we talking about?
It was the Oscars yesterday, and a queer film won an award. Two People Exchanging Saliva. Available on YouTube is a short film about a society where kissing is punishable by death, and people pay for things by receiving slaps to the face. It's very intriguing. Two People Exchanging Saliva for when I see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.